Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we're going to look at exporting in Ableton Live. So Ableton allows us to export both MIDI and audio, and we can even export video as well. And with video, we can only use video in the timeline. In the arrangement view, we can't actually use video in session view. It converts it to audio. So, say we want to export a MIDI clip, we can simply right click on it and choose Export MIDI Clip, or use the shortcut Shift, Command and E. And for audio, we can go up here, we can go to File and Export Audio. And you can see we can also choose to export MIDI here as well. So when we export audio, we can do this using our loop brace to select a certain area, or we can select the entire track. And it's recommended when you're exporting to export a bit further on than the end of the track, because you're going to have things like reverb and return track tails that are going to decay on longer than the track. So you can see here our track doesn't actually end till around here. So we're going to export a bit further. And what we can also do is choose to export the master, individual tracks, or just a singular track, or we can choose and specify exactly which tracks we want to export. So I'm now going to show you that. So when we export, let's highlight the area we want to export with our loop brace, go to File and Export Audio. And here we can select the master, which is going to be a singular track. It's going to do this either to a WAV or Aiff, or what we select here, or an MP3 or both. So we can go for master, individual tracks, or we can select an actual individual track to be singularly exported, or we can choose our returns here. So I'll do a master and then I'll also do individual tracks. It's worth noting as well that if you do all individual tracks, it will give you a master version as well as the individual tracks. So we'll go to the master, we set our 1.1.1 here, and we can change this if we want, and we can set, so we're only going to export from bar 9, but I'm going to keep this as it is. We've got some rendering options, so we can render this as a loop. If we're making loops, this is what we're talking about with making sure that the decay bleeds into the next part of the track, so it carries on in a loop cycle. We can convert to mono, which just converts from left and right to a mono or a single channel. We can normalise, and this is something that you're only going to really use if you're not planning on doing any mastering or compression, and you just want to get the signal all to be the same and get all the signals to the roof of the WAV file or the MP3 file. So that's just going to essentially push the volume up until it hits 0 dFBS. So I'm going to leave that off. We can create analysis file, so we can turn that on or off, and this is just going to create us an ASD file, so I don't want an ASD file. We can change the sample rate here. So you can see here that it's going to downsample my project from 48 to 44.1 because this is what my sound card was set at. Really, you could be working at higher than this if it allows you, but I'm just leaving mine like this whilst I'm doing these recordings. We then have the PCM settings, so this lets us choose between a .wav, Aiff or FLAC files. And we can even turn this off and just export MP3 as well if we're just sending a quick draft over the internet and we need to keep the file size small. We can choose the bit depth, so a lot of the time you'll be working in 24-bit or 32-bit floating point in the DAW in Ableton, and when you're going to finalize this, you're going to dither this down to a smaller bit depth. So it's a bit out of the depth of this course, but basically what you're doing is you're just making it compatible or making it the same as CD quality by bringing it down to 16-bit. But a lot of audio sources or places that you're going to sell your audio are now happy to accept 24-bit. And then you have some dithering options here, which is how it's going to go from 24 to 16-bit. We then turn MP3 on or off, and it's going to give us a MP3 version as well of our track. And then we can turn upload audio to Soundcloud on or off as well. And also we have some video settings if we have video. So let's now export this. We'll just hit export. And it's going to ask me where I want to save it. So we'll just go for the desktop. And we'll just call it exporting. And we'll click save. And if we have any external hardware, we're using any hardware sources or anything that needs to be printed live or exported live, then it's going to give us a countdown and it's actually going to render this live. So you just have to sit there and wait for the track to play through. And if there's any sort of CPU dropouts or any problems, then Live will let you know, and it can do multiple passes to make sure that it definitely captures the sound correctly. We've now exported the files, so let's minimize Ableton Live. And you can see we have exporting.mp3 and exporting.wav, and we'll just see how it sounds. We'll listen to the end to make sure it's caught the end of the track. So that's perfect, and let's test the MP3. Perfect, and we can even drag this back into Live if we want to and see how it looks on the arrangement. Just give it a second to load. That's the ASD file getting created, and we can see there we have our waveform. We can line it back up with the original track, and we can also bring in our .wav as well if we wanted to. And you can see it's creating ASD files for these as well. So I'm going to delete those. Delete those files there, and we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this stems or tracks, doesn't really matter. If it was stems, we'd probably just print the groups. We'd export these, so the loop and the kick, the bass and the chords. But in this case, it's not actually going to be stems, it's going to be the whole track. So we'll select all of this, go to File, Export Audio, and we'll choose all individual tracks. Hit Export, and it's going to allow us to export these. Before we do that, we could also choose Selected Tracks. And when we choose selected tracks, all you have to do to select them is highlight them. So we could choose this track and this track here. And we could then go and export these here. But I'm going to choose all individual tracks. Keep all the settings exactly the same. This time, I'm not going to bother with a .wav, I'm just going to do an MP3. And I'll hit Export. And I'm going to choose the stems folder. Exporting stems. Okay, so we've now exported all of those stems or all of those tracks, and let's have a look at the files. You can see there it's named the first part of the file exporting stems, which was the live set name, and then we've got our two kicks. You can then see it's also given us the actual kick group as well. We've got the loop group here, and then we've also got the drum groups. So don't think you can just grab all of this and pull it into the project, because you're going to have duplicates. So for example, this is actually our master. You can see because it doesn't have anything appended to the end of it. So if we play this, so that's actually our master, so we could get rid of that if we wanted to. We could get rid of our loop if we wanted to. We could get rid of our kick if we wanted to. And now we can drag this in, and it's going to sound exactly the same as this here. We've also got our reverbs and delays. So you can see this is a great tool for sending our tracks or stems off for remixes, mixing, or mastering. So guys, that is the end of this Ableton Live 10 Lite course, where I've taught you everything you need to know about how to use Ableton Live 10 Lite. Hopefully you can now dive in and start making some decent productions. Thanks very much for watching these videos, and please feel free to check out the rest of my courses where I go into a whole bunch of other subjects as well in a lot more detail. So thanks very much, and see you later.